Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very new show, the AM Mix on Australian Indian Radio. Well, it's been a while since we've been back, launching our new series of AM Mix, on which you will have lots of interviews, topics, and many discussions that will take place. Of course, previously we used to have the daily news update, and we used to call it this Air Live Show. But now this is a brand new series of Air Mix, and today we are very fortunate to have with us Giri Sivaraman, who will be discussing the referendum issue. Yes or no? The choice is yours. But let's get into that discussion and see how it transpires. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Air Mix, the talkback show of Australian Indian Radio. And in this episode, we will be looking at the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice. So on Saturday, the 14th of October 2013, Australians will have their say in the referendum about whether to change the constitution to recognise the first people of Australia by establishing a body called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice. Voters will be asked to vote yes or no in a single question on the ballot paper. So, your choice will be yes or no. On our show, we've heard from both the yes and no campaign. Today we're going to look at an independent and legal perspective with Giri Sivaraman. With that, welcome to the show, Giri.
Thanks for having me, Umesh.
So, as a principal lawyer of Maurice Blackburn, Giri provides advice on legal representation to clients in all areas of employment law. He has extensive experience in representing senior executives who are subject to workplace investigations and disciplinary processes. He leads a brilliant team of lawyers who see clients through Queensland law system. And today we are very fortunate to have him here in the studio with us on this very important topic. Now, from his community connections, he's also a writer for many publications and a very specialist journalist. Hence, he's here today. Giri Sivaraman is also the chair of Multicultural Australia, a board which he joined in April 2018. He held the chair since 1st July 2021. He previously held the role of deputy chair from November 2019. So he's, as I mentioned before, the principal lawyer at Maurice Blackburn and holds a Bachelor of Law Honours and a Bachelor of Arts Psychology from Macquarie University. He's also a member of the Queensland Multicultural Advisory Council. So today we have the listening pleasure of him right here in the studio with us on this very important and timely topic. So let's get into this topic with that intro, Giri. Now, looking at the referendum, I think the big question that everyone has out there is, what exactly is this referendum question?
Yeah, Umesh, thank you for the wonderful introduction, and let's get straight into it. I think the easiest way for me to answer that is to actually tell you and tell your listeners what the question is. So the question on the ballot paper on Saturday, if you haven't voted already, will be a proposed law to alter the Constitution to recognise the first peoples of Australia by establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice. Do you approve this proposed alteration? And at that point you should write yes or no. It will then say the proposed law that Australians are being asked to approve at the referendum would insert the following lines into the Constitution, and it will be a Chapter 9, Section 129. In recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first peoples of Australia, 1. There shall be a body to be called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice. 2. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice may make representations to the Parliament and the Executive Government of the Commonwealth on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. 3. The Parliament shall, subject to this Constitution, have power to make laws with respect to matters relating to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice, including its composition, functions, powers and procedures. So that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. The question is yes or no. It's a question as to whether you want to alter the Constitution to establish the voice or not.
And you have quite rightly put for this so that people can really understand. Now, we have been talking to people, and many times there are certain areas that people might not be well aware of. One is that, does the voice have the power to veto laws proposed by the parliament?
No, it does not. It absolutely does not. It does not affect what you would call parliamentary sovereignty. All it can do is make representations, and it's limited to making representations as per the alteration to the Constitution on matters that affect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The representations do not have to be adhered to. They do not have to be met in terms of laws, and they certainly have no capacity to insert themselves into the legislative process to veto laws. So there simply is no capacity whatsoever under this alteration for the voice body to be able to veto laws.
Okay, so that answers that question. Now, if you look at that situation, that the voice will not have any power to veto any of the proposed laws to the parliament. So what sort of powers will it have?
As the language of the alteration says, it will have the power to make representations. That's the exact word in the alteration. It will have the power to make, it may make, so it's not even will, it may make representations to the Parliament and the Executive Government of the Commonwealth on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. So representations are suggestions or ideas about laws that will affect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and it's quite specific in that it's a group. That is, the voice itself is constituted by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are making representations about issues that affect Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders. So representations will help inform and guide government, but they don't provide a foundation for laws to be rejected, for example. Representations are meant to inform and advise how decisions are made. And I've had a lot of experience with this, because I'm often involved in disputes about consultation and whether consultation has occurred under the law, and there are many decisions about this. And generally speaking, what consultation requires is that you listen to someone's view, but you don't have to accept it. In the same way, representations will be made, and it's important, I think, for them to be listened to, otherwise what's the point of making them? But they're meant to help make decision making better, but they only inform decision making. They don't ultimately make the decisions themselves.
And I think that is a very clear distinction there, and which might not be very clear to many people out there. So I'm glad that you have spelled it out in that way. Now, when they're making these recommendations, which may, as you have mentioned, and in the legal terms, as you know, the word may, has a far-reaching. So, when they're making these recommendations, will there be consultation with the amongst the Indigenous community themselves?
Yes. So the voice is meant to be representative of the Indigenous community. How the voice is created it will be separately decided by Parliament. But already we have in the Uluru Statement from the Heart and the various consultations and documents that underpin that statement that there was a commitment to this being an equally representative body on the basis of gender and also representing regional communities. And that statement itself was created out of probably the most wide-reaching, I should say, consultation within Indigenous communities themselves. So the voice can obviously take soundings and receive information from the communities it represents, and then it provides a channel by which those views and ideas can then be synthesized and provided to government. So it's a very common theme. You'll find lots of representative bodies across Australia where those bodies represent communities I mean, a classic example here in Queensland is the Federation of Indian Communities Queensland. It is a peak representative body. It may make representations, but it itself is supposed to reflect the views of the communities it represents. So certainly that's the way in which it's intended to operate.
And thanks for clarifying that. Now, of course, this is about our First Nations people. So, looking across the board there, do First Nations people actually support the voice?
That's a good question. I mean, there are obviously differing views, and we live in a democracy, so you would expect there to be differing views. And there are some very prominent Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are against the voice, but the polling in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities has consistently shown about an 80% support level for the voice, which is very, very high, higher than in the general population, if we're to be honest. And furthermore, the creation of the idea for the voice, the Uluru Statement of the Heart, came from a very broad-ranging consultation with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. So I think on balance, if you were to look at the polling, look at the way in which the Uluru Statement was formed, the extensive consultation involved, you would have to say that a fair view would be that it does have the support of the majority of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander population.
And just moving on, after the voting's done and counted, what would be the consequences of a yes vote, and maybe just in case if it's a no, so what could they be? What would be the outcomes?
Yep. So if there is a yes vote, the important thing about this is it changes the constitution. So the constitution is the foundational legal document for all powers and laws that are enacted within Australia. So it's very significant if the constitution is altered, and that's part of the reason why this is being proposed, in that if this was just done through legislation, then if there was a change of government or even a change of policy within government, it could be just as easily removed as it is created. Whereas when it's created through the Constitution, it gives it more certainty going forward. So if the yes vote is, if the majority of Australians vote yes, that is a majority of the population generally, and also a majority of states, because that's the only way in which a referendum succeeds, then once the constitution is altered, that has to be accepted by Parliament, and therefore Parliament will then be able to create the voice as per the constitutional alteration. If the majority of Australians and Australian states vote no, then we stay as we are now. That is, there is no voice, there is no recognition of First Nations peoples within our constitution.
Right, so that's the two scenarios that you have just pointed out there. Now, in today's day and age, when people are all talking about, we appreciate and we are sorry for what's been done, but now in today's day and age, we are all equal. We have come from different parts of the world. We living here in this country now, and everyone should have the equal right, equal opportunity, and be on the level playing field. So, will or does the voice create special rights for the First Nations people?
Well, it doesn't really, because the point is that what the voice does is it recognises that First Nations people were the first inhabitants of this land. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. In fact, that was recognised by the High Court in the Mabo decision. Prior to the Mabo decision, there was this concept of terra nullius, that no one occupied these lands before British colonisation, which is simply, as the High Court said, simply not true. There have been existing civilisations here for 60,000 years. So the voice as it's created allows this body to make representations, but they can't make law, they can't change law. So actually it doesn't mean that First Nations people are any different to the rest of us. None of us can directly make or change laws. Only Parliament has that power, and Parliament will retain that power irrespective whatever the outcome, yes or no, the position doesn't change in that sense, in that we all remain equal in terms of our rights pursuant to the Constitution. The only difference is that you have this specific body that can advise government and help provide guidance to government for issues that are specific to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people. So it doesn't take away, as I read the constitutional amendment, it doesn't take away anyone else's rights, nor does it give Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people something that that nobody else has, in the sense that they can't make laws specifically, and no one else can. Parliamentary sovereignty remains the case.
And once again, thank you very much for that. I think we have covered the parts. Now, just some legal implications on all citizens to vote.
Yeah, so that's good. It is compulsory to vote in Australia, and indeed, if you are a citizen and you don't vote, you have to pay a fine for not voting. And I say this all the time, Umesh. I mean, you and I come from possibly the greatest democracy in the world, India, of over 1 billion people, but there are so many countries in the world where you can't vote, or your vote is meaningless. And I say to people, celebrate democracy, whatever the outcome. It is a privilege to be living in a country where you can, without fear of harassment, intimidation, or oppression, go to the ballot box and there won't be corruption and your vote will be accepted. Don't take it for granted. It's very important that you go and vote. Don't just do it because you want to avoid paying the fine. Do it because you're taking part in a great thing, which is democracy.
And that is, again, wonderful, that you should take pride in your civil rights. That's your right. And quite rightfully mentioned that there are many countries in which we are deprived of that rights. You don't have that right, and that's what people fight for. And that's what people, choose which countries they would like to live for. You are living in a country where the democracy process is such clear and transparent, and everyone's got that right. So exercise your right. The choice is mentioned yours. And Giri, thank you so much for bringing that very independent and the legal aspect of the yes or no side. And maybe we should, and we will definitely do a follow-up after the results, and we will look at where and how things are going at that time. But once again, thank you so much for your valuable time coming in and giving us that insight.
And thank you so much for having me, Umesh. I really appreciate it.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, the first episode of the AM Mix Show, on which we'll have lots of talks back, lots of discussions on many important topics within our community. So if you have a topic that you'd like to discuss, and if you'd like to be a studio guest, you too can do so. All you need to do is contact us via Facebook or just email us, whichever means, just contact us, and we will love to have you on the show as well. So, thanks everyone for your wonderful comments about the relaunch of this segment, the AMX, which is now a registered name. Our live segment with interviews and many documentaries like this will be coming via AMX. Well, something for looking forward to. So we've now had this view. So tomorrow we will look at the Yes campaign and see what they're saying. And then on Friday, we will look at the No campaign as well. So giving everyone the opportunity, as we said, the decision in the end is yours. That's your civic right. You exercise your right based upon the facts that you have seen and whatever you believe, because that is pretty independent, and we are allowed to do that right here in this nation. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the first episode of AMX, and we will see you back tomorrow. Until then, it's goodbye from us.